Good afternoon, students. And so in this video, I'm going to go over revision. So how should you revise your paper? And so some students think that they can revise forever and ever and ever. When I revise a paper, the first thing I do is I check for essay structure. And then after I find that my essay structure is really good, then after that, I would check for grammar and APA formatting. So always make sure that your essay structure is solid before you start checking for your grammar and APA errors. I call this a two-stage kind of revision. And so in your writing process, you have 3 stages: pre-writing, writing, and rewriting. And so the revision occurs in the rewriting stage, the last stage, after you've written your draft, your rough draft. And then rewriting itself has 2 stages: revision, which is checking for your essay structure, and then after your essay structure is solid, then you check for your grammar and APA mistakes. So I'm going to go over some more tips about revision in this video. So here, let me share my screen and we can go over revision. So revising is rarely a one-step process. Global matters, thesis, purpose, organization, and general and overall strategy generally receive attention first. So that's what I said about I always revise for my essay structure first, because global revisions involve bigger changes, including rewrites of paragraphs or whole sections of a paper. Improvements in sentence structure and word choice usually come later. So that's why first you want to make sure your entire paper makes sense. You want to make sure that your thesis statement is the last sentence of the first paragraph and the first sentence of the last paragraph. You want to make sure that all of your topic sentences match your thesis statement. You want to make sure you have an effective thesis statement, which means you have topic plus opinion plus reasons. And then you make sure that the 3 reasons in your thesis statement become your body paragraph and match your thesis statement. And so once all of that is good, in other words, you have good essay structure, then you can focus on the smaller granular errors, such as grammar errors or APA formatting or APA in-text citation and reference citations. So global revision involves bigger changes, including rewrites of paragraphs or whole sections of a paper. Improvements in word choice and sentence structure come later. It's a good idea to make sure global revisions are complete before you spend time fine-tuning sentences. Revising at the sentence level gives you a chance to reconsider whether a particular point could be stronger or clearer, or if a certain word or phrase sends the message you intend. And so editing is a step that is best left for the end of the writing process. It involves identifying errors or patterns of errors, such as using commas and quotation marks correctly, making subjects and verbs agree, or using the right form of a pronoun. For advice on keeping, and then you can look at Chapter 2b for advice on keeping an editing log. Writing multiple drafts allows you to write in stages. Seek feedback and strengthen your paper through both revising and editing. See revision as a social process. To revise literally means to re-see or look over again. So you can get comments from other people. So have somebody that you trust look over your paper. Or you can have your instructors, your peers. You can go to the writing center. You could go see a tutor. So they will help you revise your paper. When you ask readers for their comments, revision becomes a social experience, connecting you with the suggestions and insights of readers who help you shape your work or your progress. As you write for college courses, you form a community of learners. And so that's why I encourage my students in my other school, Fortis College, to participate in the peer review forums, because as I said, it's a learning process for everyone. And don't be afraid that someone's going to make fun of you, of your suggestions, or if you're not really good at grammar. And I know it takes a lot of effort to read someone's paper, then think about think about what errors they might have made. But it's really worth it, because think about how the other person will truly appreciate your feedback. And avoid simply just, saying, I agree with you, Tom. That's a great idea. Yeah, me too. I also want to do that. Avoid simply agreeing or disagreeing with the topic. But the purpose of a peer review forum is for you to grade and or evaluate and or improve each other's paper. So think of it as a social experience. So when you give feedback, feedback gives you perspective on what's working and not working in your draft, and keeps the expectations of your readers in mind. Simple questions such as, what would you say is my main idea? Is my draft focused and organized? Will help you see your draft through readers' eyes. The checklist for global revision is on page 42. Use peer review. Revise with comments. Peer review gives you an opportunity to see your draft through the eyes of readers. When peers, classmates, and fellow students read your work, they offer feedback, pointing out where they are intrigued or confused. They offer their insights and suggestions, answer your questions, and help you strengthen your draft. Think of peer review as an opportunity to talk about your writing with a coach, an advocate who will help you achieve your purpose for writing. So the following guidelines will help you do peer review. Be active. Help reviewers understand your purpose for writing and provide a background about why you chose your topic, why it matters to you, and what you hope to accomplish in your draft. Let your reviewers know your specific questions and concerns so they can provide focused feedback. Listen with an open mind. After you've worked hard on a draft, you might be surprised to hear reviewers tell you that it still needs more development. Don't take criticism personally. Your readers are just trying to help you. They're not trying to attack you. So if comments show that a reviewer doesn't understand what you're trying to say, don't be defensive. Instead, consider why your reader is confused. Have a growth mindset and figure out how to clarify your point. Responding to readers' objections instead of dismissing them may strengthen your ideas and make your essay more persuasive. Taking feedback seriously will make you a stronger writer. Weigh feedback carefully. As you begin revising, you may find yourself sorting through suggestions from many people, including instructors, tutors, and peer reviewers. Sometimes the readers will agree, but often their advice will differ. Your reviewers will probably make more suggestions than you can use, so be strategic. It's important to sort through all the comments you receive with your original goals in mind, and to focus on global concerns, that is essay structure, first, before you focus on grammar. Keep a revision log of your work. Oh, wow, jump to page 80. Use peer review. Give constructive comments. Peer review gives you an opportunity to read the work of your classmates and to learn from each other. As you offer advice about how to strengthen a peer's thesis, ask how to use a visual to convey concise information. You are thinking about the purpose of a thesis. And when you propose a strategy for focusing an introduction or for anticipating a counter-argument, you not only help your classmate, but you also benefit from the process of thinking strategically. So basically, when you do a peer review, it helps you reinforce your writing, and it helps not only you be a better writer, but it also helps the other writer be a better writer. Be specific. Your comments will be more constructive if you point to specific places in a draft and show your classmates how and why and where a draft is effective or confusing. Instead of just saying, I like your draft, be specific about what you like. You do a great job on using statistics in your introduction to hook me as a reader. instead of offering a generality like your draft doesn't have much support. So give actionable suggestions like you need a more effective hook, or you have an ineffective thesis statement. View yourself as a coach, not a judge. Think of yourself as asking questions and helping the fellow student improve their grade. It is, after all, the writer who will have to grapple with revising. Help the writer identify the strengths of a draft and conceive possible solutions to address the draft's problems. Try phrasing comments this way. Have you thought about? What have you tried? So what if you tried a better thesis statement? Or how can you help a reader understand the important point first? So pay attention to global issues first. Focus on the big picture, purpose, thesis, organization, and content before you focus on sentence structure, word choice, and grammar. So as a reader, do you understand the writer's main idea? Can you follow the train of thought? Restate the writer's thesis. Let's hope it doesn't jump to page 80. Understanding. Use the checklist for global revision. The following excerpt from an online peer review session shows these are very good. So here are some examples of what you can write in your peer review forum. So obviously this particular video is for my Fortis school. Rachel, your essay makes a great point that credit card companies often hook students on a cycle of spending, but it sounds as if you're blaming students for their spending habits and credit cards for their deceptive actions. Is that what you want to say? And then response by Rachel, the writer. No, I want to keep the focus on the credit card companies. I didn't realize I was blaming students. What could I change? Then Juan, the reviewer. In paragraphs 3 and 4, you group all students together as if all students have the same bad spending habits. If students are your audience, you'll be insulting them. What reader is motivated to read something that's alienating? What is your purpose for writing this draft? Rachel. It's true that students don't always have good spending habits, but I don't want to blame students. My purpose is to call students to action about the dangers of credit card debt. Any suggestions for narrowing the focus? Juan. Most students know about the dangers of credit card debt, but they might not know about specific deceptive practices companies use to lure them. Maybe ask yourself what would surprise your audience about these practices. And then Rachel. Juan, that's a good idea. I'll try it. So try to make a conversation in the forums instead of just saying, I agree with your topic, me too, I'm also a single parent, and then leave it at that. Try to focus on the rough draft, on how they can improve their rough draft. So the peer review restates the writer's main point and asks a question to help her clarify her ideas. The writer takes the comment seriously and asks for more suggestions. Peer review points to specific places in the paper that needs fixing. The writer is actively engaged and not insulted. The peer review responds as a reader and acts as a coach to suggest possible solutions. The writer thanks the reviewer for his time. So highlights of one student's peer review process. So student writer Michelle Nguyen wrote a draft in response to the following assignment. How have your experiences with writing, positive or negative, shaped you as a writer? Write a literary narrative to explore the question. Select one or more key experiences that you think best illustrate how you became the writer you are today. And so this becomes the writing, which I won't read out loud, but here the different she obviously used Google Microsoft, in which everybody shares their comments. And so that's another way in which you can share your paper and email it to someone that you trust, and then have different people comment on it. So that's another way of, if you don't, for instance, if you don't have peer review in your class and you're thinking, oh, I wish I could have other students look at my paper. So what you could do is you could ask other students, you could look at their email address, and then you can ask them if it's okay if if you form a study group, that's what those study rooms are for, okay? You're all going, what's that ENGL 101 study room there for? And why do I have to collect those email addresses for our week 2 community group? Well, that's because once you collect all those email addresses and you ask them, is it okay if you look over my paper? And if they say yes, then after you write your paper and then you want to share it with someone, then you put in that person's email address, and then that person can then help you write your paper and would write a comment. You could have more than one person. You could have 2 or 3 people look it over, and each person would appear like this as a different comment. So if your class does not have peer review forums, then you can do it like this. You could write it in Google Docs and then share it with people, and then share it with multiple people, okay, before you hand it in. So that's one way of peer review in a class with no peer review forums. So that would be my LAPU students. Go to your study rooms. That's what those English 101 study rooms are for. Then for my Fortis classroom, you guys do have peer review forums, so therefore this is a good example of how you can maintain a discussion between your peer reviewer and the writer, and how you can make comments about how the other person can improve their writing. I won't go any more beyond this. So when you do a peer review, either by using the Google documents and the study room, or you have peer review forums, remember to always give an actionable suggestion. Don't just simply say, oh, I agree with you, Donald, and then just sit back and expect some Donald to read your mind and know what it is he wants to correct on his paper. So I think I'm going to end it here. So if you have any more questions about how to do a peer review, feel free to email me anytime. See, let me find the feel free to email me anytime. There it is. So I'll say it again, because I have to actually find the recording, the gadget, the widget, so that I could press the stop button. But so peer review is an effective strategy. In other words, when you get to the revision part of your paper, the last part of the writing process, ask someone to look it over for you, or you could go to Google Docs, type your paper in Google Docs, and then share your paper with some of the people from the English 101 study room. So you ask them first, is it okay if I email you my paper? Will you look it over for me? I really don't know what I'm doing, or something like that. But first ask. Don't just assume that person's going to do it for you. If that person says, sure, I don't mind, doing that, then go right ahead. It doesn't have to be 2 or 3 people. But that's one way in which, since we don't have peer review forums in LAPU, that's one way in which you can have peer review and have someone look over your paper. So if you have any questions, I know I said this before, feel free to email me anytime.